Funny hair today. Okay. Hey everybody. All right, it's going to read from Going Alone. Today we're going to read the Writing Bridge, which is just far enough, and maybe like that, which is the Writing Bridge, which is the third chapter of the book. It's the chapter that describes the place where I did most of the extemporaneous writing for the book. So this is my book Going Alone, and I've got one of the old, it's an old copy, but it's illustrated. It's got all the good illustration of Siberia Ghost Town in there. It's a short chapter, fortunately, because today's a blustery, rainy day, actually. Ginormous waves are coming through. There's quite a number of people out there getting some good rides. So let's go ahead and read it. It shouldn't take too long, and that's good because otherwise the book and I are going to get wet. So the chapter is the Writing Bridge. Not that, not that, not that. There we go. Okay, and it's got an actual illustration here by my daughter of the actual Writing Bridge at Siberia. There it is, and there's me sitting under the bridge being inspired away. Emily always likes to put birds in there and out in the desert. Okay, here we go, the Writing Bridge, where I wrote the story. And a quote, "We must go alone. I like the silent church before the service begins better than any preaching." That's a bit from Ralph Waldo Emerson. I remember reading that as a teenager and being quite moved by that. Here we go. Siberia Ghost Town in the East Mojave Desert is flanked on the north by the BNSF railroad line, which runs east and west through a great expanse of otherwise quite empty desert. On the other side of the ghost town, running parallel to the railroad, is Route 66, or the Mother Road, as it is sometimes called. Both corridors of traffic, rail and road, have existed here in various forms of improvement for more than 100 years. I first found Siberia Ghost Town after spotting from the road the lone standing stone wall which now serves as the center of the empty community which once was. I noted the wall while driving eastbound on Route 66, probably just as I was driving over the bridge which would later factor so significantly in the tale of the writing of this book. I certainly did not notice the bridge when I passed over it that first day back in 2015. That was about a year after I arrived here. I was simply exploring the East Mojave by car, moving slowly along Route 66, checking the road on either side for anything of interest for potential exploration. In fact, I wasn't looking for anything near the highway in particular, as I wasn't much interested in anything too close to the civilizing touch of either the highway or the railroad, as I was instead searching for good places where I could safely park my car some distance away from the road while I went for a long desert hike. So when I saw the ruins of Siberia, and I still remember it so distinctly, seeing those ruins, so when I saw the ruins of Siberia, I wasn't drawn to these for their own sake, but instead to the fact of a relatively well-maintained, short dirt road which left the highway, leading to what appeared to be the ruins of a very old building. "That'll do," I probably said. No, I didn't. I thought it, though. "That'll do," as I probably said as I flickered on the left turn signal and made my way carefully off the Route 66 asphalt and onto the dusty road. I remember doing that and looking for sandy bits because I could get the car stuck. The distance from the highway to the ruins is about the length of a football field. Not far at all. And the dirt road is in good shape, seemingly well-traveled and well-maintained. I would later learn that this was due to the ongoing attention of the railroad workers, trackmen, signalmen, linemen, railroad police, and others who make their living keeping this stretch of railroad in safe operational order. I would later come to know some of these men, swell guys, honest, hard-working men, people I respect, and I always strive to stay out of their way when I am at Siberia, and never allow myself to become a nuisance to their hard, honest labor. In fact, I have found labor here too, of a sort. Though I am never paid for my efforts, Siberia has become a quite effective work site and source of inspiration for me for both my writing and my videos, as well as my every effort of improved living. Very much the wabi-sabi life out there, now that I think about it. The ghost town, and in particular the bridge under the highway near the town, are where my desert muse does seem to live and reside. Live, despite the fact my muse is quite dead and non-existent. A figment of my imagination. Alive, in a sense, only as long as I live and have the will and the way and the motive force to breathe life into something only my own musings might create. My muse did find me here in the desert, in the ghost town of Siberia. She then did follow me far out into the desert where she mostly shadowed my movements, nearly always silent, refusing to speak to me among the holy relics of the dead mountains and forgotten wastes of a landscape that never cared and never lived and never knew or loved or possessed any dear sentiment, thought, or capability which our species might attribute to life. My muse was my unloving, unfeeling, unthinking, and unliving imagined escort through a place where I could never pass without her attentive ministrations and silent, whispered hints of something more to be found beyond my adventures and excursions, something to be found in the place I'd left behind. In a life I must love, should love ever be anything to dissuade the emptiness, it was then too late to unsee or forget. The muse is my desert voice, a silent soliloquy and homage to what I can never truly know or share or escape from. My muse resides and originates from under that desert bridge. That last paragraph there really does sum it up about as good as I could possibly do. I should probably give that paragraph to ChatGPT as an example of what it was like out of the desert, because ChatGPT is very nuanced in figuring these things out. Its superpower, of course, is context. The more context I give it, the better. So, what part does the bridge at Siberia play in all of this? Was there some poetry to be found beneath the girders and beams holding up the highway? Did the muse follow me from somewhere else in the desert or Japan to that place in the shade beneath the road? Does my muse live there still while I am away? Can the muse be found there after I am gone, or if someone ever came with me to the desert? Why the bridge? What role does that place play in this story? Shade and shelter are the answers. A refuge from the heat and fury of the desert summer. I came to the bridge out of necessity, and then discovered a place of catalyst for what I might immodestly call my art. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. So going to Siberia itself is a vain effort, because it can only partially follow through. It's too deadly to be able to follow through completely. But under that bridge, whether I could get all the way to the edge and then follow through in safety and not be killed by the desert. So that's what the bridge did for me. It allowed me to stay past the point. Interesting. When I was in Japan, I used to reach some limit points, and when I was in the mountains all alone, and I realized, this is far enough, Kurt, you can't go any further than this, and never go any further. I wonder if I had found something like the riding bridge in Japan, if I could have made it be further. I don't think I could have, because I was too immature in Japan. I was too screwed up in my head. Well, it's not that I was screwed up necessarily. I was going through the same thing that most parents, fathers seem to go through as they're struggling with career and family and responsibilities and, paying all the bills and all that stuff, and yet feeling some sort of a longing inside to be something else, to feel a connection and a drive towards art and having your own voice and wanting to do that, and then being drugged down by the workaday life that you have to live. I mean, there's a thing that goes on, a dynamic that goes on, not to everybody, but to a lot of us. That was the thing that really clouded my mind. And there's really, looking back, there's no way that I could have overcome that and maintain my responsibilities and follow through on the responsibilities that give me the peace of mind now, knowing that I did. So it was an investment, those 20 odd years of, running on the hamster wheel had to be done to get to now. And in particular, to get to the point where gosh, the timing was just perfect, in fact, now that I think about it. Well, I guess I was pretty lucky to come to America, back to America when I did, to break the what was it? To break the paradigm that I was trapped in Japan. Not that Japan traps you. I would have been stuck in that paradigm here if I'd stayed here as well. I had to break the paradigm, drive myself, not literally, but drive myself to the edge and then beyond, and then see what was out there at the other side, and then make sense of that, which became going alone and the resulting good life creed. And now, the wabi-sabi life. Did I already read that part? Yeah, there we go. The first time I went to the bridge, I did so simply to get out of the sun and escape the heat. The heat, so impossibly intense there in the deep East Mojave during summer. There is truly no rest from the blaze in the open desert. The sunlight out there can truly kill. So much energy piling on across whatever skin is exposed. Oh my gosh, just remembering some of the close calls I had with death out there. My gosh. A real threat, really a threat. Nothing to take lightly. So on several places in this book, I warn people, you will die if you try to go out to these places and are careless, and you will kill you without a cure. So on a very hot July day in 2016, I decided to pack some water and a few necessities and hike the quarter-mile to the nearest of the two bridges which I could see supporting Route 66 to the east and west of Siberia, where flash flood arroyo crossed under the road. So that's a long sentence, but I'm standing there at the ruins of Siberia to the east. There's a bridge, and to the west there's a bridge. The west one's closer. I don't know why I chose the east one first, but I did. The first time I did this, I went to the bridge to the east of Siberia. It is a good bridge, and I found some interesting things below, really interesting things, including a travel book written in Japanese with a hand-penned note, again in Japanese, what are the odds, on the back. The note, I took it back to my wife to have her read it, was written, I took a photo, that's what I did, I left it there. The note was written by a man who declared that he would not die away from home and that he would make it back alive. I was really moved by that. I went back to that bridge again a few months later. The Japanese book was still there. The shade was good there. It was a fine place to rest and find shelter. The bridge served well the important purpose I was then on. I think that man was riding a bicycle. He was a Japanese man riding a bicycle around the United States. Somehow managed to stop at that bridge, maybe to get out of the heat, ducked under the bridge on Route 66. For some reason left that book there with a hand-penned note. Who would know that he would later find his book would be found by a man that was married to a Japanese that could take a photograph of it and go back and then find out what he said. Later, a flash flood washed that book away. It's gone now. It was not until a year later before I tried the other bridge, the one to the west. I decided to visit that other bridge when I realized the western bridge was closer to the Siberia ruins than the eastern bridge. The fact of being close was good, as it allowed me to better keep an eye on my motorcycle parked back at the ghost town ruins, which I periodically check on by popping my head out from under the bridge to make sure nobody is loading my bike onto a truck or setting a match to the gas tank to create a desert bonfire. I remember when I wrote that last sentence there, I was very proud of that sentence, lighting the match and creating a desert bonfire. But I would kind of creep out of the bridge and pop my head up to see is anybody messing with my bike. Nobody ever was. Although I did one time poke up and I saw a bunch of people, there was a car parked nearby and some people crowded around it and they were leaving a note for me. Because I used to leave a book on the top of the bike, and I with a note on it say, free book, and let people take it. So they came over to look at the bike, the tourists, nobody around, but there was a copy of old, the old copy of Going Alone with the kind of the geographic map print on the top cover, and there was a free book. I mean, what? Free book in the so they took the book and left me a note. There was also something good about the space below the western bridge, though there is not much headroom down there, but there is also something more. The sand is very soft and good for sitting. It is a good place to plop down and think, and that is how the writing got started. Just sitting on the soft sand below the bridge with the sun roasting the desert beyond my shade. Oh my gosh, I would sit there and you could just almost see the intensity of the heat outside. And the sound of periodic automobiles crossing fast overhead. I mean, go many minutes, sometimes 10 minutes between cars. And the frequent rumble and growl of mile-long freight trains moving by slowly a quarter mile to the north. This setting under the western Route 66 bridge became my place at Siberia Ghost Town. A sort of circumstance and atmosphere where I could cultivate and get to know better the muse I'd met earlier out there at the edge of the blank desert wilderness. A dead muse who seemed willing and able to follow me sometimes to the places where I go and where I am willing and able to think. To think without much distraction I cannot willingly ignore. To think where the conventions of my kind and the ways of our collective consensus appear as weak sentiments easily put aside in favor of whatever else can be proven more sound and compelling. That sums up my worldview right there. This is the bridge where I wrote much of the content found within Going Alone, especially the content under the heading Notes from My Muse. Those are the italicized sections at the end of each chapter, or near each chapter. This is the bridge where I discovered the solution of developing a life of meaning in the face of a universe which seems so far devoid of intrinsic meaning or purpose beyond the mute scope of survival and the worthy act of passing our life from ourselves into those who will soon take our place. This is the home of my desert muse and the place where I found the words of the story I do now choose to tell. So really it's about, that's the end of the chapter. So it's really about to that point that everything before this chapter is kind of preamble. I think the next chapter is the, there's just like a segue here. And the next chapter is the next chapter, My Muse is a Corpse? Yeah, My Muse is a Corpse. The book really starts at that point right there. Let's see if there's any comments before I go for a swim. Oh, hi. Cyanium. I can't. Cyanium. No, most artists died penniless in the past. Yeah. Despite creating things we all enjoy. Sacrifice. True dat. Thanks for that, Kurt. Aeronaut 419. You're very welcome. Okay, it's time for me now to go for a swim. So let me show you something. So I'm 50, almost, I'm closing in on 60. And I want to show you probably the best shape of my life. But I want to show you a cautionary tale too. I swim every single day now. I have been doing it for months. And I swim right here, and I get out, come here every day after work, or in the morning like now, and I go out and swim out there. And I'm swimming out there for a lot. I mean, yesterday I was in the water for probably an hour and a half maybe. 2 sessions, came out, rested a little bit, went back out and powered. Thank you. So I want to show, but I have noticed something, okay? Despite all of that, I walk about 3.5 miles a day, and I swim every day, and I do sit-ups every day. Despite all of that, it's a losing battle at this point. My body's in good shape, but it ain't going to be what it used to be. And I'm going to show you probably the best shape of my life, just so you can see. So then I want to put a marker in the sand because summer is passing. I'm sure I'll still be coming down, but I won't be swimming as much. So I want to show you what you can do every day of swimming. Okay, now this is, I'm not doing this to show off or anything. Look, I'm not very toned, right? I mean, this is a dumpy old man's body, right? But this is me swimming every single day. And walking every single day. And so the reason I'm noting this is there's a limit, right? I mean, it used to be 10 years ago, if I was doing this, I'd be nice and all buff and muscular. Can't happen anymore. It doesn't happen. I've reached that point. So I'm enjoying the best shape of my life because it's pretty much all downhill from here. And I'm all right with that. So, but I just wanted to draw this line in the sand and say, this is as good as it's going to get. I told Yumiko that the other night. I said I'm in the best shape of my life because I want to get to Japan. I won't be able to swim every day. The ocean is different there, but I will be able to walk a lot. I said, but this is probably the beginning of the end. So with that, I'll go ahead and go for a swim. Take care. Thanks for joining me. Be safe, but not too safe. I'll see you next week if you choose to join me again. Bye-bye.